Hello and welcome again to Dancing in the Shadows. My name is Jason Ring, I'm your host, and I'm going to get into some more of my recovery. The last episode we talked a little bit about the accident, how it took place, what I went through. When it comes to the actual initial accident, I went into shock and in a coma, woke up in a hospital after a reconstructive surgery. Yeah, I guess my kidneys had shut down, and I didn't really talk about what got my kidneys started again. That was a shot. It was an experimental shot at the time. My dad, I guess, in conversation with Watchtower and Bible Tract Society, the Jehovah's Witness organization, they have a strict no-blood policy. Essentially, they were looking for something that they could give me aside from blood to save my life. They settled on a plasma substitute of some sort, saline and plasma. I don't know too much about it. But fortunately, I was young and healthy enough that my life was able to be saved on this plasma substitute. There was no blood transfusion. That's another subject that is very contentious in this organization. And the reason is this no blood transfusion policy has led to the deaths of tens of thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses where they could have potentially been saved. Much like the two witness rule, some, I think, dangerous. They say they're both scripturally based, and there's countering scriptures to both their arguments that they ignore. Again, this is very dangerous, and I don't think that these should remain in practice. And I'll tell you, to be honest with you, there's a few things I don't agree with this ideology, and they're major things that have led me to denounce it publicly to my family, which has, as a result, I made the decision to distance myself from anyone that follows this religion, this ideology, this cult, because I don't agree with it, and I need to make a stand, and I believe that the stand that I'm making is the most righteous stand a person can make. You see, they have policies, they may have changed them as of recently, that if you are a baptized witness in this organization, you go against their principles, you can be disfellowshipped from the organization for various different reasons. If you're disfellowshipped from the organization, then you're banished from the family as well. They're not to speak to you. They're not to acknowledge you. Even if they see you in public, they're to turn and walk away. You are dead to them. And this is a very dangerous policy as well. That story we'll get into at my age of 16, 17, somewhere around there. I'm going to tell a story it's very shocking, very terrible, and it involved this theology and the death of my best friend. We're still at the stage of me recovering and moving on in my attitude shift that happened. And it's simply the people that were working to help me get better during this time after the injury. They inspired me so much, and they pushed me, and they drove me to success, and they rewarded me along the way. And you know what? When you're a kid, it's amazing what you'll do for a sticker. That when you scratch it and sniff it, it smells like something amazing. Because that's what I worked for. My goals were for stickers. I look back at that now, I kind of laugh. Like, God, how cheap was I? I settled for stickers. But yeah, I had a therapist. I don't even know if she's with us anymore. She's probably not with us anymore. But her name was Sue Rare. And if she's alive still and she somehow miraculously ends up hearing this, I just wanted to thank her personally so much for her commitment and attitude towards my success in physical therapy. You were part and parcel of the many people around me that really helped me overcome such a tragic event, and I want to thank you for that. So thank you, Sue Rare. Also, I had a home therapist, and her name is escaping me right now, and I do have a book that she gave me, so I'm going to have to bring her up in another podcast. But she would give me seashells, as a reward. I ended up with a whole collection of these beautiful shells from around the world and that she picked up on her travels. She too was an inspiration and a big help to my recovery. So I'm sorry your name is escaping me right now, but I didn't have you as long as Sue was with me. So I will get to you. But imagine, after this tragic event, my dad losing his truck to a derailed train, which I mentioned in the previous podcast, my family going through all of this turmoil, still trying to hold a grounded religious background, going to the meetings, and still 3 days a week, my mom taking me to the hospital for physical therapy. Up until the age I was like 12, 13, it was so long, my recovery was ongoing for so long, and there was so much work that had to be done. We were always at that hospital, whether I was getting fit for a new brace because I was growing out of the one that I was in, I was recovering from a surgery, or going through rehabilitation. There was always something happening that was requiring us to make many, many visits to this hospital. And it was also during this time that I saw the passion slip from my parents' relationship. And it simply was the hardship that took over. And the incident that took place, and that was the cause. It was one of the major catalysts for that shift in their relationship. They still loved each other very much, and they still spent as much time together as they could, when they could. My dad was busy, my mom was busy with me, and they still had moments of joy that would creep in periodically. My dad would feel silly, and he'd chase my mom around the front yard with the garden hose, just playing. Those are the beautiful moments that I remember, and I'll never forget. Hot summer days, and they're out working in the garden, or my dad's doing landscaping, or cleaning up a tree because he's home, or cleaning out the gutters, which I used to help him do. I loved heights. I loved climbing trees. I've been going up on the roof. I did this stuff in a leg brace, okay? I was fearless. Building forts, tree houses, rope swings. My childhood was, I tried to be as normal as I possibly could, probably more normal than most people that lived on my street. They're probably looking at me like, what? Put a nickel in this kid. He doesn't stop, I was pretty hyperactive. I'm also fortunate my parents didn't put me on Ritalin or anything like that, by the way. Just saying. I don't take any medication. I never did, and I never will. The things that we go through in life are not meant to be suppressed. They're meant to be experienced and learned from. That's the only way that we can evolve, grow, and cope. That's it. I'm a living example of it. So I hope you understand that I'm not attacking people that are on medication who want to suppress pain. But I have to tell you, it's not the way to alleviate the pain that you feel. You got to go through this stuff. You have to feel. You have tear ducts for a reason. You have a voice for a reason. We have ears for a reason. We have to exercise these gifts that we have if we really truly want to be free, okay? So fast forward, I dumped the leg brace, and I started my life learning how to walk again. And the muscles in my leg finally started to get stronger and stronger. Honestly, I could do a lot more than I thought I could do. I rock climbed for a short time with some friends. I wasn't as flexible and mobile as my fellow rock climbers, but I had successes and I had triumphs. I learned how to ride a bike, and I couldn't bend my right leg far enough to, pedal all the way around, because my radius is not like most people's. My right leg only bends very little now, to be honest. What I would learn to do is I would pump on the left side, and as the pedal came around, I would follow it as long as I could, and then I'd let the pedal pass me, and I'd use my heel to kick it up. And then by that time, my left leg was taking over again. So I learned how to ride a bike. And it looks normal. It looks like I'm riding a bike. But there, if you pay attention, you can see the dynamic and how I've learned to adapt. And that's what you do, is you learn to adapt. And I have. I've learned to cope, and I've learned to adapt. We are quite amazing creatures, and we do have remarkable abilities. When we're tested, they come out and they're shown. But why is it that people only allow their abilities to shine through if they're being tested? Why don't they test themselves? Test yourself. Go through it. Join me in allowing yourself to be free of the trash that you keep inside. It's not worth holding on to. You want an age reduction pill? Try this. You won't need the pill. I'm 46 years old, and I still look like I'm 35. Even though I've been through so much, I try not to carry things too long because I know the effects it's going to have on me. I try to live a life as close to a good person or a righteous person as possible, so I don't have anything to carry. These are just things that come with practice. My first job. I got hired at Jim Boy's Tacos. A new location was opening up in Carmichael, but before it opened, they sent me down to 29th and N Street's location to train there, so that when the staff was fully trained, when they opened the doors in Carmichael, and we weren't just all thumbs, all just trying to figure out what's going on, we actually had good training. And it opens, and I worked really hard, and I made it to shift leader, eventually to cash register. And these are little minor wins, but you're 15 and a half years old. You're not old enough to serve beer or even hand it to someone. And we did serve beer, but everyone had to serve it, not me. Anyone over 19, I think is what it was. And I couldn't work on the grill, so I couldn't cook. OSHA said you had to be 16. So, but still, I advanced and I did well, and I still love Jim Boy's to this day. It's one of the things that if I ever moved out of this area, I would miss it so much, and I would have to come back periodically just for, a couple tacos. So if you've never had it, don't try it because you'll be hooked. Anyways, I segued a little bit there. I got to high school, went through junior high and high school. Junior high was very awkward for me. I was held back a grade, number one, in grade school. So most of my friends that I grew up with were a year ahead of me now. And from that point on, going back to school is primarily why I think I was teased and I was berated and picked on. Because those that would normally have protected me were a year ahead. I was just immersed in a new set of people and circumstances, and my world was shattered. I was a different person. And kids can be cruel. It was difficult during the time, but now I look back on it and like, you know what? They're part of the strength that I have today. That was a blessing in disguise. When you have gone through such a traumatic experience and then you're berated for something that you have no control over, you don't understand why they treat you this way. You just think that people are mean. Kids are mean, but it's because they don't understand the effects they're having on the people they're being mean to yet. And some, honestly grow up and never do understand that. That's pretty sad situation, but that does happen too. But I overcome all of it as best I could. This is getting a little long, so I'm going to be wrapping up this episode here pretty quick. We'll talk about my days as I enter into high school and some of the things I learned in high school, and what happened in high school that changed my outcome on school, my thoughts on school. They changed. I realized I wasn't getting a strong education, and a lot of the teachers that I had just didn't seem to care. I made the decision to leave as a junior, and I'll get into that in the next episode. I want to say thank you so much for listening and subscribing and sharing this with your friends, and I look forward to reading all your comments as much as I can get to them. And it's been a great journey, so stay tuned. There's more to come, and thank you again for listening. It really means a lot.